Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we are doing a friendship reading between Johnny and Haechan. In this video we have multiple questions, so let's get down to answering those questions. The first one is a card that will represent the dynamics between Johnny and Haechan. We have Gemini. I guess I should be surprised because Haechan is a Gemini himself, but with this card right here, it kind of shows that the dynamics that they have is one where there's a lot of communication. They could be quite similar in similar ways or similar in opposite ways. So there's something that they share in common, maybe a very similar way of thinking, maybe a very similar lifestyle, or maybe they just get along pretty well with this Gemini energy, because Gemini energy is the twins in astrology. And with Gemini, I usually think of people that are, maybe spontaneous is not the idea, but like they're kind of, they love to talk a lot, they love to communicate, and that doesn't necessarily mean that all Geminis are extroverts, but at least the energy is one that likes to have like an intellectual talk. So Geminis are also the type that can be the most spontaneous out of all the air signs. Of course, how should I put it? I'm talking about the energy itself. I'm not necessarily talking about people that have their sun in Gemini. So this tells me the dynamics that Johnny and Haechan have is one where they either have very good communication or they can understand each other very well. So either they understand, maybe they have a similar sense of humor, maybe they have similar ways of thinking, or they just they go out of their way to understand each other. Whatever it may be with this Gemini energy, it just shows that the dynamics that they have could even be one where they like to do a lot of things together. With this Gemini energy, again, the whole idea of twins, they have a very, because also Gemini energy is one that is usually connected to the third house in astrology, so this makes me think that the dynamics that they have is one where they are very close companions, because the third house can talk about short travels, it can talk about communication, and it is a house of siblings, so maybe they like to bicker like siblings, but they also get along like siblings. So that's the type of dynamics that they have, is one where they're quite close, very familiar with each other, and they could be very similar, even if personality wise or on the outside it may not seem that way. I'm not too sure, I don't know them fully well. You guys will know better than me how they usually interact with each other. But now let's take out one card that will represent each one of them in this dynamic. So one card that will represent Johnny, and one card that will represent Haechan. Okay, so for Johnny, the card that represents him is the Six of Swords, and the card that represents Haechan is the Nine of Wands. So this kind of shows that Johnny is a type that doesn't like to get into trouble, does not like to argue, does not like to stick into a situation that is either very tense or filled with anger or filled with any sort of stress. He doesn't really like to be in that type of dynamic. So this tells me that they're both quite similar, because the Nine of Wands could also talk about someone that is quite cautious because they're having fights before or they have been hurt in the past, and because of that, someone that has the Nine of Wands energy usually tends to be a bit more cautious with their actions. They may be a bit hesitant, but they still do not give up. There is kind of like the Nine of Wands talks about someone that's close to the end of a journey, but they haven't given up yet. There's still hope. They're still going to work hard to achieve their goals or dreams and take action upon those things, even if they have had enough experiences to at least make them not be reckless with their actions. And yeah, with the Six of Swords, it does talk about someone taking a bit of like a mental break or kind of like detaching from a situation that could be troublesome. So this makes me think that the dynamic that Johnny and Haechan have is one where they balance each other very well, because as I mentioned, they could have a very similar way of thinking. And in the cards that represent each one of them, Johnny with the Six of Swords talks that he doesn't like to cause trouble, he doesn't like to be in arguments, he doesn't like to be in fights. He prefers to detach himself from situations that stress him out a lot. And from Haechan, in this Nine of Wands, shows that he prefers to not touch old wounds. So if Johnny and Haechan have ever had an argument before, or they may have had shared an experience where both of them went through a very rough time, they try not to talk too much about those things, or they try to get over it. And if that's the case, that could, one of the reasons they could get over it, and the reason why we got the Gemini card, could be that the dynamics that they have is one where they do like to communicate and speak outright with each other and be completely honest with each other, to try to steer clear of any misunderstandings and any past pains, either because they had arguments or because they just went through a situation that caused them to be in a stressful, painful, or hurtful situation. So, that's part of the journey about being in the same group. So yeah, with the Nine of Wands with Haechan, this represents that in this dynamic, he's the one that could be a bit more cautious, or is one that doesn't forget the hardships that they have lived. But if you look at both of these cards, both of the people here seem pretty content, pretty happy. So this tells me that both of them in this relationship are represented by cards that are they're the type of people that maybe they joke over hardships and over their own misery, or they just try to bring humor and optimism to their lives. So that's the type of dynamics that they have. But let's just jump into the next question, which is, how do they see each other? So how does Johnny see Haechan? We have two cards. We have the Moon and the Hangman. That's a lot of water energy. So the Moon is Pisces energy, and the Hangman is Neptune energy, which is the ruler of Pisces. Okay, and how does Haechan see Johnny? We have the King of Wands reverse. And the way that Haechan sees Johnny is the King of Wands reverse, which is Aries energy. So again, they're quite similar because Pisces and Aries are right next to each other when you look at astrology. So that means that, again, there's a sense that they're quite similar, even if they may have different personalities. So the way that Johnny sees Haechan with the Moon and the Hang Movement in this one is he sees him as someone that could be a bit mysterious, someone that is maybe a little bit hard to decipher, because the Moon does talk about the unknown, it talks about mystery, and it could even talk about like the subconscious mind, right? Stuff that we don't outright show to others, energy that is a bit personal. And with Pisces energy, you could even talk about someone that is shrouded in mystery, because Pisces energy is one that is mutable water, so it is hard to contain, hard to get a hold of or get a grasp on. And Pisces energy is very dreamy. So I do feel that this kind of just shows that Johnny sees Haechan as someone that could be a bit difficult to figure out. Not because Haechan is trying to hide anything, but because Haechan is constantly changing and is... Maybe Haechan's a bit of a daydreamer, so he could be someone that is not as practical as other people, and he could also be someone that is very good at painting a picture. And again, Neptune energy, like the planet itself, is a planet that can bring a lot of illusions, can bring a lot of this confusing energy, because again, it's very hard to grasp. It's like if you have like a very foggy environment, so it's very hard to see and it's very hard to get a hold onto, and especially because there's a lot of like this with mutable water, is a lot of energy that is just flowing freely and is constantly changing, and that's why it's maybe kind of hard to grasp Pisces energy. So this shows me that Johnny sees Haechan as someone that can be quite hard to figure out, someone that can be kind of hard to hold on to. And in this case, I mean this in like a metaphor type of way. Like maybe Haechan could be someone that doesn't really get close to people, or maybe because think about this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with dealing with air energy, so someone that is an air sign. But with air signs, depending on which sign you are, you may, like if you are an earth sign or a water sign, you may think air signs are very detached and that they just can't have close relationships, like close intimate relationships. And that's because everyone has a different idea of like what a friend is, what family is, what close friends are, and so on and so on. So the way that air energy works, to some other signs, it may feel a bit either superficial or very aloof or hard to hold on to. If I remember correctly, Johnny is an Aquarius, so you may think that he will be okay with this Gemini energy because Aquarius and Gemini trine. But depending on other placements in their chart, it could make it for people that share the same element sun-wise still don't get along. And I mean, I'll put myself as an example. I'm a Libra sun, but I still find it very difficult to connect with Aquarius people. And I don't really know why that's the case. It's like I can talk to them and have beautiful conversations with them, entertaining conversations, but for whatever reason, the energy just doesn't click. I don't know. Maybe it's my heavy Virgo energy. Who knows? Anyway. And with the hang movement, I do feel that this shows that Johnny sees Haechan as someone that always comes out of left field, always either very spontaneous or just someone that expresses themselves in a way that Johnny just does. He never sees it coming. He has never thought of something a certain way. He has never seen a perspective that way. So he sees Haechan as someone that brings in a lot of new ideas, brings in a completely different point of view to the way that he views life and the way that he goes about life. And maybe he really, we'll see, the next question talks about what they like about each other, but there is also this energy that maybe Johnny sees Haechan as someone that is able to bring very interesting topics to talk about, or very interesting ideas that really leave him thinking and kind of leave him in this meditative state of what the world has come to, or something like that. Now, on the other hand, with the King of Wands reversed, Haechan sees Johnny as someone that has a lot of potential to be very good at taking action. Now that I think about it, if you look at the cards that represent each one of them, it makes sense why the thing that they see of each other is getting highlighted in this reading. So what I mean is that with the Six of Swords, that's air energy, and the way that Johnny sees Haechan comes from a very intellectual, conversational type of way. And from Haechan, since he's represented with a Nine of Wands, which is fire energy, it makes sense that the thing that he will notice in Johnny will be the action-orientated or the fire aspect of his personality. So anyway, with the King of Wands reverse, Haechan sees Johnny as someone that has a lot of potential of being a good leader, or has a lot of potential of initiating action. Also, Haechan sees that Johnny has a potential to creating change or initiating something new. Now, I say potential because the King of Wands is reversed. So this tells me that Haechan doesn't see Johnny as someone that fully embodies his King of Wands energy. And the lack of embodying this energy could be in different ways. And I think the main one is actually that Johnny doesn't really take up the stand or take up this initiative to be the leader. So what I mean by this is that even though Johnny may have, or at least from Haechan's eyes, Johnny may have the ability to take charge and guide other people towards change, or guide people towards taking action towards something, in Haechan's eyes, Johnny doesn't really take up that role that often. But he still has the qualities to be able to be that leader or something like that. Because with the King of Wands reverse, you could also say that maybe Johnny hesitates a lot and doesn't take action, or maybe he's not very good at analyzing the situation before doing something, right? But to me, it just kind of went like, Haechan sees that Johnny has the potential to be this King of Wands, but the only reason why it's reversed is because Johnny chooses not to be this King of Wands. And in this case, the King of Wands is just representing leadership. I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that Johnny is older and is one of the older members in all of NCT, so maybe that's why Haechan sees Johnny as someone that is very good at leading other people and is very good at just taking charge sometimes, even though he's not officially a leader. He, in this case, being Johnny. Yeah, also seeing these feathers that make me think of because I think this King of Wands is supposed to be a phoenix, but it looks like a peacock. So that makes me think that either Johnny is very good at absorbing the situation, or he's very good at looking out for other people. And if that's like the other thing that I'm also getting is that maybe Johnny's very good at attracting other people's attention and energy. And if that's the case, Haechan probably sees Johnny as someone that other people like to follow him, or other people really look up to him somehow. And because of that, there's this leadership type of potential that Haechan sees in Johnny. But let's go on to the next question, which is how do they like to spend their time together? So how do Johnny and Haechan like to spend their time together? We have Venus energy. So Venus energy talks about the beauty of life. It could be entertainment in any way, shape, or form, like music, art. So one of the ways that they like to hang out together or spend their time together is maybe while they're working, but it's usually more like the fun aspect of their work. So if they're both already frustrated with like their schedule and stuff, they're not really enjoying the time, of course. But when you know how a lot of groups just have like their own variety shows where they're just kind of like they've been put in like do this activity, and then it's uploaded like on YouTube as a show or something for the fans. Well, I do feel that they really enjoy spending their time together whenever they're doing an activity that they both find actually entertaining and fun with Venus energy. Also, Venus talks about small fortunes, so maybe they like to spend their time together just, celebrating their paycheck was the words that came up. So, spending money together. I was thinking of like, how people usually have those work dinners or work hangouts or stuff like that, like to celebrate the accomplishment or the completion of something, everyone goes out to eat. That's one of the ways that they like to spend their time together. Venus also talks about beauty and enjoying the luxuries of life. So maybe they like to go shopping together, or they may enjoy a lot of hobbies that they find very entertaining, and they just share that time together, enjoying those hobbies. They may have also very similar aesthetic preferences. Is that the best way I can describe that? So I don't know, I was thinking like maybe like if they're buying clothes with each other, like if they're buying clothes together, or like they're trying to buy something to decorate like their dorm or whatever, or decorate wherever it is that they live, or trying to buy something for themselves like a gift or whatever hobby they may have. I was thinking of figurines as well. They have very similar tastes, so I think they do like to go shopping together because it's very easy for both of them to be like, oh, I found this thing that I know you're going to like, or I found this thing that I enjoy, and since we have similar interests and similar aesthetic preferences, I know you're going to like as well. So they may add, what I'm also getting, like online shopping, like they may ask each other off or share links with each other often about like items that they saw, like, oh, I think you're going to like this, I think you're, again, because they have very similar tastes. So I think there's like this is one of the mutual understandings or mutual things that they have. Now let's go on to the next question, which is what do they like about each other? So what does Johnny like about Haechan? We have the Three of Pentacles reverse. Now I'm kind of chuckling a little bit because it will be better if this Three of Pentacles was upright. What does Haechan like about Johnny? We have the Wheel of Fortune. So with the Three of Pentacles reversed, what Johnny likes about Haechan is that Haechan just likes to do his own thing and has a very independent energy and prefers to just kind of do things on his own and go his own way. The independence that Haechan has is something that Johnny really likes or really admires, because Haechan does not get easily influenced or swayed by other people's opinions, and that strong personality, or maybe that strong mindset, maybe that's the best way I can describe it, is something that Johnny really likes. The Three of Pentacles talks about group work. It talks about people that are experts in their field or are very good at whatever skills that they have, and they come together to complete a project. So that is very fitting to NCT, and I guess any K-pop group. You have different people that are focusing on different skills, and then they just come together as a group and everyone is shining on what they're good at and just coming in harmony or just working together to complete their schedules and their projects. So the other thing that I was going to mention with this Three of Pentacles reversed though is that Haechan is someone that is very good at what he does, but he may not be so good at working with other people. But for whatever reason, Johnny is like totally okay with it. And I think that's because in NCT, it's such a big group and everyone's exposure is at different levels, because some people are in multiple units while some of them are barely appearing in their own unit. And I think Johnny really likes how Haechan doesn't really get I don't know why the word discouraged came out. Like there's this energy that Haechan just works very hard at perfecting his craft, which I guess in this case will be to be a main singer. And Johnny just really admires that from Haechan, that Haechan is just kind of like, it doesn't matter who I end up working with, like them or not, it doesn't matter, I'm going to do what I want to do. And it seems like Haechan's focus will be to just continue working on his own skill and just being good at that. So Johnny really respects that and admires that. So if they get along or not, look, that Gemini energy doesn't tell me that they're on friendly terms. It just tells me that they have a mutual understanding. So this tells me that the thing that Johnny likes about Haechan is that even if they were not to get along, or even if there's times that they find each other insufferable and they can't work together, Johnny still likes that Haechan is professional and just gets his work done as the main singer. And he's good at it. So, yeah. On the other hand, the thing that Haechan likes about Johnny with this Wheel of Fortune is that Haechan sees Johnny as like a good luck charm. The Wheel of Fortune talks about destiny. Of course, it talks about fate, and it talks about good luck coming in the sense of like having good fortune. It's like the Wheel of Fortune is a very positive card. Also, the Wheel of Fortune is number 10 and it's supposed to represent like the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new one. So this tells me that Haechan sees Johnny, or like the thing that he likes about Johnny is that Johnny is not only like a good luck charm to him, but also Johnny seems to be someone that is very good at taking control of his life, or be like what is it called? I forget the saying, the whole thing about like holding onto the reins. The whole idea of like Johnny is very good at just deciding what he wants to do in his life and going through with it, taking charge and taking control of his destiny in a way. And in this case, destiny, what I mean is like if Johnny wants to do something, he starts working to try to make that into a reality. But there's also something about timing. So I don't know, I think Haechan sees, or like Haechan, what he likes about Johnny is that Johnny just seems to always be in the right time in the right place. Seems like Johnny just has also very good connections, because this web makes me think of networking. Yeah, I think that the main thing that just came out with the Wheel of Fortune is just that Haechan, what he really likes about Johnny is that either Johnny's very lucky, or when they're together, they tend to just have very good fortune. So things just work out, they're like in the right place at the right time, opportunities just start coming towards them. Whatever it may be, Haechan just sees Johnny as a lucky charm of sorts. Now let's go on to the next question and figure out what they have learned from each other. So what has Johnny learned from Haechan? We have the 10 of Wands. 10 of Wands right away makes me think of responsibilities and doing a bunch of things at once. Now what has Haechan learned from Johnny? We have Death reverse. So I'll tell you guys this. We had Major Arcana on the way that Johnny sees Haechan, so Johnny has very big respect for Haechan. He really does. And in a way, he also sees the great potential that Johnny sees the big potential that Haechan has. But on the other hand, the cards that appear for Haechan are all big. We have a Court card and 2 Major Arcana. So this shows that Haechan also has a lot of admiration for Johnny, or he really respects him as well, as a person, as a co-worker, as a friend, and so on and so on. Anyway, what have they learned about each other? So with the Ten of Wands, is very straightforward. The thing that Johnny has learned from Haechan is to be very good at managing all the responsibilities that they have to take care of, being able to work through a lot of schedules, and to finish and complete a lot of the projects that they have to do, all the activities that they have to take care of. Johnny has learned from Haechan how to juggle all those things at once, how to find balance between their chaotic environment, and also how to not feel super overly burdened with all of the responsibilities that they have to take care of as idols and as people. So this Ten of Wands is very straightforward in that sense. Johnny has just learned to either manage his time or take action to not procrastinate as much and get things done as well. And if you see this energy, that kind of brings me back to this King of Wands, where Haechan sees a potential that Johnny has. So there might be a chance that Haechan was probably someone that really pushed Johnny to just take action and get things done, and to go after his dreams with no hesitation. Because the Nine of Wands does talk about someone that even if they've gone through a lot of hardships, they still power through. So Haechan just naturally has that dynamic in the relationship that he has with Johnny. Now, the other thing that I'm going to say with this Ten of Wands, the imagery that we see here makes me think of someone that is like mastering a skill. That also kind of goes back to this Three of Pentacles. So I feel that another thing that Johnny has learned from Haechan is to not give up on improving on his skills, and to not feel stagnant as well. So someone that is constantly improving and wanting to become a better version of themselves when it comes to their skills. And that's another thing that he has learned from Haechan, how to just constantly strive for something better, constantly, and just working hard towards becoming that better version of themselves, or in just improving on whatever skill they were already like plateauing on, or like already getting stagnant on. On the other hand, with the Death card reverse, there's a sense that Haechan learned from Johnny that there's nothing to be afraid of with change. Now, I do feel that Haechan is someone that over prepares himself when he's about to start something new. So either he plans a lot, or he works on his skills a lot so that he can survive on any uncharted territory or anything that is unknown to him. And the Wheel of Fortune does go very well with the Death card reverse, as the way that it's coming off to me. Because death in tarot talks about a death and rebirth. Kind of like the Phoenix, now that I think about it. Also with the Death card reverse, I'm getting that the thing that Haechan has just learned from Johnny is this whole idea of not being afraid of the end of something, and actually getting closure with it. And the Death card also talks about transformation and change. And I do feel that Haechan is someone that is very dynamic and is not afraid of being flexible and doing things differently, thinking about things differently, and adapting to change. But I also feel that Haechan may have struggled a lot when things didn't work out his way. So Haechan could be someone that asks a lot about himself, or is very strict with himself, and could be the reason why he kind of just works very hard to perfect his skills. But just combining all of the cards that kind of show the way that Haechan sees Johnny. With the Wheel of Fortune, we do talk about like the end of a cycle. The Wheel of Fortune could talk about breaking cycles. The King of Wands did have the Phoenix. That is a very good idea of death and rebirth. Actually, one of the ways that I see the Death card is like a Phoenix. And then the Death card reverse just tells me that Haechan is not super welcoming to the idea of change, transformation. Another way that the Death card could be described is as metamorphosis, right? Someone that has been in their cocoon, and that could be the end of a cycle, and then someone that is coming out of their cocoon is a form of rebirth, right? So going from a caterpillar to a butterfly is like going to the next stage, improving, and this sense of just starting a new lifestyle or starting a new cycle. So this tells me that the main thing that Haechan has learned from Johnny is to not be afraid when things end, and instead looking forward to the beginning that this end has brought into someone's life, right? So this just shows that Haechan could have been very hard on himself if things didn't work out for him. But I think one of the ways that Johnny sees life, or the way that he just goes through with his life, was it it helped Haechan understand that if something didn't work out, it's not the end of the world, and it's just a learning experience, or that is just part of the journey. That's just part of life. There will always be an end to something, and that end will cause a new beginning or a new chapter in their life. And I think Haechan just, that was the biggest thing he has learned from Johnny, that instead of being upset or being sad that something ended, or that there was some, like, a cycle was broken, Haechan learned from Johnny that that is not always a bad thing, that something good can come out of it, or to look forward to the new beginning, or to the new cycles and the new chapters in their life, and the new journey that they will embark on now that something else has been put to rest. So a situation is over, the cycle is broken, or having to walk away from a situation, again, this it's once, right? Walking away from a situation that was just not meant to be could be also one of the ways to end the situation, right? So I guess one of the examples is, like, if someone was in a toxic environment and they were just dealing with it because it was part of their schedule, it was part of their job, then Johnny could have taught Haechan the skill or the ability or the option that you don't have to deal with such situations, and you can just walk away. Just say, you know what, I'm just not dealing with this anymore. I'm gone. And that's one of the ways that someone can just rid themselves of negative situations and kind of give themselves a time to find harmony and balance again. So that could be another thing that Haechan learned, just to avoid issues, avoid conflict, and sometimes walking away from a situation will lead to a better end result than just staying and arguing it out. Another thing I'm getting with the imagery of the death card is that Haechan learned from Johnny to not poke the bear. The whole idea of, like, don't push each other's buttons. If you know that a certain topic, or like a certain topic will trigger someone, let's just not bring it up. Let's not argue for the sake of arguing. You know how one of the things that I learned was that when it comes to relationships of any sort, maybe family, maybe romantic, maybe friendships, is that to have a close relationship with someone, you kind of have to be vulnerable, right? And kind of express your weaknesses, in the sense of, like, I trust you enough that I will tell you this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And one of the ways to honor or respect a relationship is that you will not abuse those moments of weaknesses that someone has, like, expressed to you in a relationship. And by, I guess, disrespect, or however I just put it, I forgot. One thing that you do is that you don't purposely push their buttons. Of course, if there's an argument or something, well, stuff will be said that maybe it's not the nicest, but what I mean is that if you know that there's something that someone is insecure about, or someone, or, like, it really triggers them because that's, like, their weak spot, if you will, then one of the ways that you kind of, like, show respect to the relationship and show respect to the person that you're dealing with is that you just don't hit those points, because that's kind of like a low blow. Like, that shit only comes up when you're, like, in big arguments. So I do feel that that's one thing that Haechan learned from Johnny, is, like, don't poke at it. The weaknesses that the people you're dealing with have, because they've been together for a really long time. They are 24/7 working, so they know a lot about each other. So one of the best ways to keep the harmony and the peace that they have as a group is don't purposely push on those buttons if you want to avoid arguments. And even if you're arguing with someone, don't bring up personal issues as the words I use, guys, like, not weaponizing each other's trauma. So if someone went through something very difficult, very challenging, don't bring it up. That's not cool. Something like that. Anyway, let's go on to the very last question, which is, why did Johnny and Haechan meet? Wait. So the card that we have is Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius. I think this planet is one of innovation, being spontaneous. Inspired thought just came up. I'm saying a bunch of things, but what I wanted to say was of dreams coming true. Now, the reason why they met was to broaden their mind, broaden their horizons, think about things differently. I don't know how similar or different Haechan and Johnny are, because they could be very similar and still inspire change and bring new points of view to each other because of how they are naturally as people. And what I mean by that is that I do feel that if you look at them, they both have a similar way of seeing life, even though they may have a different approach. So one way that I can describe this is that the elements that represent them, so we have air energy with Johnny and we have fire with Haechan, those elements are still very complementary. Like fire and air do get along quite well. Now, those are the cards that are representing them right now, because they're both air signs, sun-wise at least. So I do feel that they could be quite similar with maybe the way that they think about things. Or like, how should I put it? Like their process of living life is quite similar, even though their personalities could be quite different. Because it seems like Johnny is a bit more of like, let me think about things, let me meditate, let me like take a step back to think about a situation. And Haechan is a bit more action orientated. And the reason why I'm saying this is because on Haechan's side, his energy is constantly highlighting Johnny as someone that should take more action and be a bit more of a risk taker. And from Johnny's side, the thing that keeps getting highlighted from Haechan is his very different way of thinking about life, or his very interesting point of view, as well as like this hardworking energy. So I do feel that the reason that they met was to bring like a different technique, a different perspective, a different way of doing things, or a different way of thinking about things. And again, if they are very similar and have a very similar lifestyle, they can still bring in a lot of new information and a lot of new topics and ideas onto the table in such a way that it still inspires change and transformation. Oh, you know what I just got? One of the reasons that they met is that they could have the same rising sign. I heard it once, or maybe I read it once, I don't know, that people that have the same rising sign in their astrology could end up going through similar situations around the same time. Because I was looking at like this watch that this Uranus card has in such a way that it made me think about timing. And I don't know why, it just randomly came to mind that people that have the same ascendant or the same rising sign, they will experience like milestones around the same time. Also, in astrology, I do feel that if you want to know anything about timing, or like if you're doing anything related to predictions, if you want to get apparently the most accurate prediction to yours, instead of looking at your sun sign, look at your rising. Apparently that one is the most accurate. So yeah, I do feel that maybe Johnny and Haechan could have the same rising sign, and if that's the case, even though they have different ages, they have different sun signs and so on, they will go through similar checkpoints or similar situations. They will experience it around the same time. So if someone is going through this transformation after a hardship, the other one will also be going through a similar situation around the same time. If that's the case, that could explain why they might be very close, because maybe they could talk about some of these hardships and encourage each other on that. But that's not really the highlight of the reading. I'm saying that because other people have gotten that in their friendship readings, like that's like the main topic, but with them that's not necessarily the case. Lastly, the other thing I'm going to say with this Uranus energy is that I'm thinking of the lightning strike that hits the Tower card in tarot, and that makes me think that they're both very good at inspiring like this mental breakdown for each other. And I'm saying that in the most positive way possible, and what I mean is like they are, one of the reasons that they met was to kind of like start or like spark change and inspire each other to either think differently or just shift their life in a way that will be a bit more positive. Kind of like getting rid of the old, getting rid of stagnation, and bringing in all of this new energy that brings a bit more of this lighthearted positivity into their lives. That's the other thing that kind of came up. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this reading. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This reading was pretty straightforward. I was a bit afraid because the whole morning, every time I was like just going through just social media, just reading, and the whole time I would just read things wrong for whatever reason. So I was afraid that as I was recording this video, that I will look at the cards and just not be able to like concentrate or not being able to see things clearly for whatever reason. And I'm glad that that was not the case. Like I was afraid that I will see the Six of Swords and just be like the Six of Wands or something like that. Like that's kind of how I was going about it. Like I would just read something and just read it slightly off, but it was off enough that I will be so confused. Like what just happened? Anyway, I will leave this here. I will see you guys on the next one, whenever that is, however that is. I hope that you guys found this reading entertaining or at least learned from this reading. Now I'm saying that because we did talk a lot about astrology, so who knows, maybe you guys are interested in that, but I can't help but talk about it when I'm using an oracle deck with astrology on it, right? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one, whenever that is, however that is. Love and healing from my part to you, and bye.